The two roads of the same journey, how giving and compassion shape experience. At dawn, two caravans rolled out of the low valley at nearly the same moment. They were headed toward the same destination, a distant trade city known simply as Havenreach, a place of open markets, fresh water, and rest after a long crossing of dry lands. From a distance, the caravans looked nearly identical. Each had 6 wagons, each drawn by steady animals, each carrying families, goods, tools, and hopes for a better season ahead. The terrain before them was the same road, the same heat, the same dust, the same unknowns. In the first caravan travelled a man named Aurel. In the second caravan travelled a man named Corin. They were nearly the same age, had similar strength, similar skills, and similar reasons for travelling. Neither man knew the other, and yet their journeys would quietly mirror one another in ways that would reveal something far deeper than miles travelled or goods traded. The first day was long and warm. By midday, the sun pressed down heavily on both caravans, and the road shimmered with heat. In Aurel's caravan, when the pace slowed and a child began to cry from thirst, Aurel noticed before anyone asked for help. He stepped down from his wagon, lifted a water skin, and walked it back to the child's family. "Take a little extra," he said calmly. "We'll all reach the wells together." No announcement followed, no expectation of praise, just a quiet easing of tension that seemed to ripple outward, unnoticed yet effective. In Corin's caravan, a similar cry rose from a different child. Corin heard it too, but his thoughts went elsewhere. "We were told to ration," he muttered to himself. "If I give now, I'll have less later." He tightened the cap on his water skin and focused forward, irritated by the noise and the heat and the feeling that the road was already demanding too much from him. By evening, both caravans made camp at nearly equal distances along the road. The fires burned, meals were prepared, and tired bodies lowered themselves to rest. In Aurel's camp, conversation flowed easily. Someone laughed about a loose wheel that had been fixed with shared tools. Someone else offered a story to pass the time as food cooked. Aurel sat near the fire, not leading, not withdrawing, simply present. He felt tired, yes, but there was a softness to the tiredness, a sense of having moved with the day rather than against it. In Corin's camp, the fire burned just as brightly, but the air felt different. People spoke less. When they did, it was sharp and practical. There were complaints about the heat, the pace, the rations, the road ahead. Corin sat apart, chewing his food with tension in his jaw. He felt the same physical fatigue as Aurel, yet it weighed heavier, like a burden he carried alone. On the third day, both caravans encountered trouble at nearly the same hour. A wheel cracked on one wagon in each caravan, nearly identical breaks caused by the same hidden stone in the road. In Aurel's caravan, the wagon halted and people gathered almost automatically. Someone fetched tools, another held the animals steady. Aurel stepped in where needed, lifting, bracing, steadying, saying little. The repair took time, but the mood stayed calm. There was an understanding that delays were part of travel and that helping one was helping all. In Corin's caravan, the broken wheel caused raised voices almost immediately. Someone blamed the driver. Someone blamed the road. Corin blamed the delay. "We can't afford this," he said sharply. "This is setting us back." Tools were fetched, but with frustration rather than cooperation. Hands worked stiffly, and every passing moment felt like something being taken from Corin personally. By the time the wheel was fixed, both caravans had lost nearly the same amount of daylight. And yet, One felt intact while the other felt diminished. As the journey continued, small moments accumulated, unnoticed by most but deeply felt by the two men. When food ran low, Aurel shared without calculation. When someone walked slowly, he matched their pace. When tensions rose, he listened rather than defended. He did not think of himself as generous. He simply followed what felt right in each moment, guided by a quiet inner sense of ease when he chose understanding over resistance. Corin, facing the same shortages, the same slow walkers, the same tensions, felt his body tighten more each day. Each request felt like a threat. Each delay felt like injustice. Each shared resource felt like loss. He slept poorly, even when physically exhausted. His meals never quite satisfied him. The road seemed longer with every step. Midway through the journey, a sudden storm struck both caravans within minutes of each other. Wind tore across the plains. Rain fell hard and fast. Animals grew restless. In Aurel's caravan, people moved quickly but calmly. Tarps were shared. Hands steadied poles. Voices reassured the frightened. Aurel felt the storm fully, the cold rain, the strain on his muscles, yet beneath it all was a sense of trust. This will pass, he thought, not as hope, but as certainty. In Corin's caravan, the storm felt personal. Every gust of wind felt like an attack. Every soaked blanket felt like proof that things were not working out. Corin shouted instructions, not to organize, but to release frustration. People moved, but with fear rather than cooperation. When the storm finally broke, both caravans emerged wet, cold, and delayed. But again the experiences diverged sharply. That night, Aurel slept deeply, his body recovering easily. Corin lay awake, replaying everything that had gone wrong, his muscles aching, his mind racing. As Haven Reach finally came into view days later, both caravans arrived nearly side by side. The same gates opened to both. The same markets awaited them. The same opportunities lay ahead. Aurel entered the city with a sense of quiet fulfillment. He felt stronger than when he had left, despite the long road. His body felt capable, his mind clear, his heart open. Corin entered the city feeling drained and dissatisfied. The journey had taken more from him than it had given, or so it seemed. Even the promise of rest felt muted by lingering resentment. Later, as the noise of the city settled, Aurel and Corin found themselves at the same well, drawing water at dusk. For a moment, they stood in silence, unaware of how closely their paths had mirrored each other. Aurel noticed Corin's tense posture and tired eyes. Without thinking, he offered a simple nod and a calm word. "Long road," he said gently. Corin hesitated, then nodded. "The longest," he replied. They parted without further conversation, but something lingered in the space between them. Two men, one road, the same conditions, the same challenges, the same destination, and yet entirely different journeys lived within the same miles traveled. For one, giving, compassion, and understanding had softened the road, allowing support to flow naturally and the body to remain at ease. For the other, resistance, fear, and separation had hardened each step, turning the same path into a burden. The road itself had not chosen sides. It had simply reflected what each traveler carried within.